आज हम पढ़ेंगे इम्पोर्टेंस और यूजेस ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड। इम्पोर्टेंस और यूजेस ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड। इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड की यूजेस क्या क्या हैं और इम्पोर्टेंस क्या है। You write down the question. What are the importance and uses of elasticity of demand? So elasticity of demand is useful in every field, in every juncture of life related to finance. So in the financial sector, in the economic sector, in the planning sector, everywhere this concept is used, and it is important. Its main importance is for some sectors which we are going to discuss. Number first is, it is important for finance minister. Finance minister means government. For the government, this elasticity of demand is very important. So we can say the elasticity of demand is important for finance minister. Elasticity of demand is important for finance minister in imposing taxes. When he or she impose taxes, in imposing taxes on goods and services, he or she takes help from elasticity of demand. So elasticity of demand is important for the government, for the finance minister in imposing taxes. For example, if demand for a good is inelastic, the government can impose more and more taxes without fear of decrease in demand or revenue. So first importance is for the finance minister in imposing taxes. Number second is important to monopolist. So here we have discussed that it is important for the finance minister when he or she impose taxes for such goods whose elasticity of demand is inelastic. That means if government impose taxes on such goods whose elasticity of demand is inelastic, their demand cannot be decreased by the consumers. Consumers cannot avoid taxes by decreasing the demand. They have to buy it, and government may not lose their revenue. It increases the government's revenue. Important to monopolist. It is useful for monopoly in maximizing their profits. He can increase price of those products whose demand is inelastic. It is also useful for monopolist. It is important useful for monopolist in maximizing profits. Monopoly can increase the price of such goods whose demand is inelastic. So for those products, the demand is inelastic. The monopoly can increase their prices without fear of decrease in their demand. Decrease in their demand. So this is next important use of this elasticity of demand. It is useful for monopolist. Monopolist uses elasticity of demand while fixing the prices of the products. He can increase or decrease the price of products according to their elasticity of demand. Monopoly can increase the price of such goods whose demand is inelastic without fear that their demand will decrease. Number third is important for international trade. It is important for international trade. As we know, every country is involved in international trade, in imports and exports. Imports, and it buys goods from the other countries, it sells goods to the other countries. In the international trade, those countries benefit whose demand for imports is elastic and demand for exports is inelastic. For example, if India export a product and the demand for its exportables is inelastic, इनके जो एक्सपोर्ट जो इंडिया कर रहा है गुड्स, उनकी डिमांड वहां फॉरेन मार्केट में inelastic demand है. That means people cannot decrease their demand if their price increases. So India can increase the price of its exports without fear of decrease in their demand. Also, if India imports goods, if a country imports goods and the demand for imports is elastic, that means if other country increase the price of their product, price of their exports, which is imported by our country, the demand for such goods is elastic, they may lose revenue. So that is why we can see the elasticity of demand is useful in international trade. The elasticity of demand is much useful in the international trade. It is elasticity of demand is much useful in international trade. In international trade, those countries benefit more. Those countries benefit from trade, when if demand for their imports is elastic, demand for their imports is elastic and demand for their exports is inelastic. Demand for their exports, demand for their exports, demand for their imports is elastic. Demand for their imports is elastic and demand for their exports is inelastic. So a country may get benefit more benefit if the demand for its imports is elastic and demand for their exports is inelastic. It is helpful in international trade. Fourth, its importance is in fixing price of goods. Number fourth, helpful in fixing price of goods. Price of goods. price of goods or factors in price fixation. In all types of price fixation, it is very important. It is very important. ये उठा लिया ये international trade का. Elasticity of demand is much useful in international trade. Those countries benefit from trade if demand for their imports is elastic and demand for their exports is inelastic. Yes. अब हम उठाएंगे helpful in fixing prices. Elasticity of demand helps us in fixing price of goods as well as price of factors. Elasticity of demand is helpful in fixing price of factors and price of goods. If demand for a factor is inelastic, the factors can increase their price. If demand for factors is inelastic, the factor can increase its price. So factors means factors of production: land, labor, capital, organizer. Thus we can say that elasticity of demand is helpful in fixing price of factors of production and price of goods. If demand for factors for a factor is inelastic, the factor can increase the price without losing its demand. So this is all about the importance of elasticity of demand. Thank you. We will take the next topic.